everyone. Welcome to the Doctor's Inn. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez. We want to make the most out of your telemedicine appointment today in this time of COVID-19. Send in your questions on Facebook and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you very much for joining us. So more than ever, food delivery ang pag-usapan natin ngayon, which has become a major part of the new normal. So today's show will discuss how convenience does not have to sacrifice safety and quality. Lalo na sa panahon ng tag-ulan. What should we look out for so we can avoid food contamination and water-related diseases in this time of pandemic? So first, let's start by welcoming our guest for today, who is Dr. Jaifred Christian Lopez, who is a public health doctor. Welcome to the program, Jaifred.
Good afternoon, Doc Freddie, and good afternoon sa ating mga manonood.
Now, Jaifred, umpisahan muna natin with some facts, some facts and fictions when it comes to food and COVID-19. First, let's start with, can we be infected with COVID-19 from food? Marami pong nagtatanong sa bagay na yan. What do you think, Jaifred?
Okay. First, gusto nating isipin na ang viruses po kasi ay nangangailangan ng living host. So meaning, it cannot really infect other people if you only deal with the virus itself na kumbaga walang living host. So usually ang food, kinakain natin yan ng of course it's not living already and therefore you don't have any living cells within which it can multiply. So but at the same time, we also recognize that there are also viruses that can be transmitted ng fecal-oral, meaning pag meron tayong traces ng virus dun sa mga dumi ng tao at nakakain natin sila, yun yung mga pwede makapagbigay sa atin ng sakit. We have, for example, hepatitis A, we also have rotavirus, but those are viruses that are distinct in terms of transmission as compared sa kung paano natin nakukuha ang COVID-19 which is through respiratory droplet transmission. So hindi natin ini-expect na magkakaroon tayo ng transmission ng COVID-19 nang gamit lang ay droplets sa pagkain.
That's true, Jaifred. I agree with that the COVID-19 virus cannot survive without a living host. But just for the knowledge of our viewers, there has been recent studies on how COVID-19 has been found through the GI tract, actually through the feces of those who have been positive, even when their respiratory system, their lung systems, or their lungs have been cleared of the virus. So this is just something to note by our viewers that it is possible, it may be possible for COVID-19 to survive through the gastrointestinal tract of a person. So, is this fact or fiction? Like what Jaifred said, hindi nabubuhay ang COVID-19 sa pagkain. Hindi ito yung main driver ng infection natin. So, possible, maybe. So, there's more studies that we need for that. A second question that is frequently asked is, can people naman contract COVID-19 from food packaging? So kung nabubuhay ba, Jaifred, ang COVID-19 sa balot ng pagkain, sa mga kahon, sa mga supot? What do you think about this?
First, we need to consider kung ano yung tagal ng panahon na nananatili ang virus sa isang surface. So we can see, for example, na may mga studies nang nagawa na kapag ang virus ay nanatili sa isang plastic surface, it can stay there for as long as 72 hours and 24 hours for cardboard. At the same time, though, we don't expect naman that we'll be eating out of that surface the whole time. And ang good news naman dyan is for plastic, we can actually wipe these surfaces. So either with soap and water or with alcohol. So therefore, parang ang pwede natin maging precaution is we can actually wipe these surfaces, especially yung mga lalagyan ng mga pagkain natin, yung mga groceries. But we have to remember that it's not really the food itself na hugasan natin. Kasi, of course, soap, it's just meant for the hands. It's just meant for things na pwede nating hugasan. But in terms of food na lalagyan natin ng pampalinis, it can actually be more harmful. So, if it will be suitable to one's peace of mind na i-wipe niya yung surface, then we can do that. And that will actually help then in somehow being able to confidently consume our food.
Yes, that's right. That's right, Jaifred. So just to recap for our viewers, it is okay to wipe down if you have delivery food packages before you bring them in the house. Make sure you wash your hands. Make sure you could possibly disinfect as much as you can, as much as practically safe to do so, and also disinfect the packaging. But then again, this isn't the main driver on how COVID-19 is spread, but still it is better safe than not to disinfect those packages. So right now, let's take a look at our social media questions. Marami tayong mga questions na naka-line up. We have one from Catherine. Ang tanong niya ay, ano-ano po ang mga pagkain na prone to contamination?
So we would like to first clarify na tong tanong na to kasi mukhang hindi na lang virus ang tanong niyan eh. Kumbaga, contamination in general. Kasi we have to define, for example, what does it mean kung ligtas ang isang pagkain na kainin? We have to remember na ang mga sakit na dala ng pagkain ay, kumbaga, sanhi po ito ng bacteria, ng viruses, at ng mga iba pang nakalalason na pwedeng mapunta sa pagkain. So ngayon at nasabi natin yon, magandang alamin po muna natin kung ano yung mga pwede nating pamamaraan para maging ligtas po ang ating pagkain. So dapat po siguraduhin po nating wasto po ang pagkakaluto. Ibig pong sabihin yan, dapat po ang mga gumagawa po ng ating pagkain ay sumusunod po sa mga patakaran na nilalatag po ng DOH, ng FDA. At the same time also, we also have to ensure that our food suppliers conform to standards that are already lined up or laid out by our Food Safety Act of 2013. Andun din po yung ating kasiguruhan that our food handlers are kumbaga certified ang kanilang health. So dapat po meron tayong health certificates. In fact, alam po ng mga food business handlers po natin yan that we actually require them to undergo accreditation every year. So mga food handlers po natin dapat may mga medical certificates. Tapos, of course, moving forward to the how this will apply to COVID-19, parang andun din po dapat na we should have proper PPE. So yung PPE po natin, hindi naman po yung kagaya ng ginagamit sa hospital, but at the very minimum po, a kind of PPE that would limit the possibility of respiratory droplets to end up in the food. So, and of course, we also have to maintain physical distancing. So yun po yung mga iniisip din po natin so that we can ensure that our food is not contaminated.
That's correct. And also food, it's not one particular type of food. It's not one particular specific food, but the type of food that you have to also be aware of. Yung madaling mapanis, like Jaifred said, yung mga pagkain na raw. So yung mga mahilig sa mga sushi, mga ganun. Advisably, wag yun ang pinapadeliver nyo. Food that is high in starch or carbohydrates din. We have other questions in store for you, but we have to pause for a quick break. So when we return, we will discuss some more how we can avoid food contamination and other foodborne illnesses, especially during the rainy season. Please stay tuned on The Doctor's In. We'll be right back.
As we move to the next stage of easing restrictions, the reality is the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. The coronavirus remains a serious public health risk. Good personal hygiene is our first line of defense. Wash your hands often with soap and water and for at least 20 seconds. Scrub all surfaces of the hands. If hand washing is not immediately available, use alcohol-based hand sanitizers. Wear a mask. The coronavirus is transmitted through direct contact with respiratory droplets of an infected person generated through sneezing or coughing. Cover your mouth and nose with a tissue or handkerchief when sneezing or coughing. Avoid touching your face. Maintain social distancing. Keep a safe distance of at least a meter from others whenever possible. Avoid crowds. Stay at home if you have any cold or flu-like symptoms and seek medical advice. We're in this together.
Welcome to the Doctor's In. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez, and we hope that you're staying safe at home so we can provide you with the medical advice that you need. So right now we are talking about safe steps in food handling para maiwasan ang iba't ibang foodborne illnesses. We have with us public health doctor, Dr. Jaifred Christian Lopez, to talk more about this and to help us, or to help me, answer your online questions. So, Jaifred, let's continue the conversation with uh, how to safely handle food, especially now sa panahon ng pandemya, no? So let's
Mhm.
start first at home. What's the best way or what's the safest way to make sure that the food we eat is free from any bacteria or viruses?
Okay. So first, we have to ensure that our food is stored properly. So there is actually an ideal temperature na as much as possible, um, hindi dapat siya lumalagpas doon. Kumbaga parang we don't allow our food to be exposed to these extremes to a certain interval of temperature. Kasi pag tumagal sila doon ng 4 hours, it can actually cause spoilage. So that will be between the temperature of 6 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius. So parang pag sumobra doon, it's actually ideal for storage. Pag sumobra din dun sa higher temperature, it's actually ideal for reheating your food. So as much as possible, we would like to ensure that our food is also separated in the sense na hindi nagahalo yung iba-ibang klase ng pagkain that can actually contaminate other food materials. So basically, we also would like to ensure that we are maintaining our hand hygiene. So dapat po whenever we prepare our food, we always wash our hands. And importantly, when we purchase food straight from the market, we don't actually use it right away. We also would like to wash any fruits or produce with water. So we don't need to actually use soap. Tubig will be enough.
All right. Pero Jfred, paano naman yung mga food deliveries and takeouts? Ano mga precautionary measures na dapat natin sundin para safety naman ito? We mentioned a few earlier, no, yung pagdi-disinfect ng packaging. But for the actual food itself, do you think it's practical na yung mga pinadeliver na pagkain, initin ulit or lutuin ulit ng konti for a few minutes just to make it hot again?
Mhm. It's actually nice na yung ating mga delivery apps, you can actually track kung gaano na sila katagal from the moment that it was released from the store until it gets to you. So as much as possible, ayaw naman nating umabot yun ng more than an hour. Kasi more or less 4 hours naman ang allowance natin before we can expect some form of proliferation of any bacteria doon sa ating food. So having said that, ang isang important na gusto nating ma-ensure is our food deliveries are actually packaged well. So as much as possible, sana po our food should not be contained in a certain receptacle or ilalagyan po natin na hindi na spill-proof po siya basically. Hindi po dapat siya sumasaboy. At the same time also, hindi rin nababasa yung pagkain. Dahil po kapag na-import po ang moisture, it can actually accelerate po yung ating bacterial growth, especially kung medyo natagalan, gawa ng traffic or anything. So, and it's actually reassuring since a lot of our food delivery apps are giving notices to our consumers that the restaurants that are availing of their services actually do their best to do the packaging well. So as much as possible, sana po all food businesses who are seeking these or collaborating with these apps can actually ensure na yung mga binibili nating pagkain ay well packaged and it will actually get to us fresh and hot.
Okay. Now let's check out our online questions. We have one from Yoza. How should we handle grocery items? Dapat din ba itong is-sanitize? So grocery items naman ngayon, kanina it was food delivery items. Dapat din ba ito, Jfred, na we have to make sure that it is also just as clean and disinfected?
Mhm. The thing about grocery items, medyo ano din siya. Iba-iba kasi ang grocery items natin. We have to consider, for example, ito ba ay produce or ito ba ay prutas, gulay, ganyan. So, I think for those kinds of produce or for those kinds of products, we will just have to follow our routine food safety practices na dapat po before we add them into our food, we should clean them, or not really clean them ng sabon or anything, pero to just wash them so that we ensure na walang any residue na galing sa bukid or anything na that can actually contaminate the food. Now, for canned goods and for those that are packaged in plastic, actually there is less risk of actually getting any virus there. Kasi ang maganda naman sa kanila, if you just wipe it with water, it can actually already significantly lower the risk of having any virus stay in the surface. And at the same time also, parang andun din yung ating precautions na when we handle anything outside the house, we should really ensure that we have our hand hygiene, and we should also refrain from touching our face and any surfaces that we usually handle na can actually lead us to touching our hands or touching our face. So I think it will still boil down on ensuring that we wash our hands very frequently.
Yes, of course, always back to the basics, washing your hands thoroughly, just being conscious on the things we touch and not touching our face, just like what you mentioned, Jaifred. Thank you very much
Yes.
for joining us. Do you have a quick message for our viewers, Jaifred, before we pause for break?
Ayan. So, una nagpapasalamat po kami sa CNN Philippines for giving me the opportunity to share. We would like to, of course, advocate na sana we should be able to stay at home. Kung talagang may nararamdaman tayong symptoms, wag na nating ipilit pumasok. And as much as possible, we would also like to ensure that everyone would really conform to any guidelines that are being released by the DOH and by our partners at the WHO. So marami pong salamat.
Okay, that was Dr. Jaifred Lopez. Thank you very much for watching. The Doctor is in right here on CNN Philippines. When we return, as the rainy season arrives, how should we avoid waterborne diseases? And how do we make sure the entire family is safe? More of that after this short break. You're watching The Doctor is in on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez. With the rainy season upon us, kailangan din nating paghandaan ang mga sakit na karaniwang lumalabas sa panahon na ito. Dr. Evalyn Roxas, who is an infectious disease specialist from the Philippine General Hospital, is here with me to tell us more about this. Welcome to the show, Dr. Roxas.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Roxas. Now, ngayon ang topic natin ay waterborne diseases naman kasi ang panahon natin magiging tag-ulan na rin in a few days or basically nasa tag-ulan season na po tayo. And we often hear about these waterborne diseases. Ano nga ba talaga, Dr. Roxas, ang mga waterborne diseases?
So, tama po kayo, Dr. Freddie. Ang waterborne diseases ay ang mga sakit kung saan nakukuha kapag uminom ka ng kontaminadong tubig o yung hindi safe na tubig. So, may iba't ibang bacteria, viruses, at parasites na pwedeng makuha kung ang isang tao nagdudulot ng isang sakit na sinatawag na water-related diseases kung ininom mo ito ng hindi ligtas. So, ilan sa mga waterborne diseases, you have your cholera, typhoid fever, ang hepatitis A, na iba doon sa hepatitis B. So ito ay lahat na tinatawag na waterborne diseases. Ang leptospirosis ay isang klase ng disease na makakategorize din as water-related diseases kasi ang pag-contact sa isang kontaminadong tubig ay maaaring mag-facilitate para makapasok ang leptospires, yung nagkukos ng leptospirosis sa isang tao, upang magdulot ng sakit. So, ilan lamang ito sa mga sakit na tinatawag nating waterborne or water-related diseases.
That's right. So marami, alam natin na maraming klase ng mga waterborne at water-related types of diseases. But in general, Dr. Rojas, para sa mga viewers natin, ano yung best way para maiwasan natin ang mga ito?
So, ang pinaka-common na presentasyon ng waterborne diseases, particularly those related sa pag-ingest ng contaminated water, is diarrhea. So, ito usually nagpapakita ng yung pagtatae o pagsakit ng tiyan. Ilan yan sa mga sintomas ng cholera, for example, typhoid, tsaka hepatitis A. So, para maiwasan ito, siyempre, alam natin paano ito nakukuha sa pag-inom ng kontaminadong water. So, para maiwasan, dapat iinom lang tayo ng safe water. So, clean, safe water to ensure that we prevent getting these water-contaminated diseases or waterborne diseases.
Clean, safe water. That is definitely good advice. Huwag tayong pabasta-basta kung saan lang iinom ng tubig. Now, let's take a look at our social media questions. We have one from Beatrice. Ang tanong niya ay, ano po ang karaniwang sintomas kung ikaw ay may waterborne illness?
So, depende po kung anong sakit ang meron ka. Gaya ng sinabi natin kanina, iba't ibang klase ang sakit ang nasa under ng waterborne diseases. For example, cholera, usually you have watery diarrhea. Kapag salmonella, may lagnat, typhoid fever, may lagnat, masakit ang tiyan, or bloody diarrhea. Or kapag leptospirosis naman, which is also considered as a water-related disease, iba naman ang presentasyon. So, may lagnat, masakit ang katawan. So, iba-iba. Kaya ang pinakamaganda, kung may mga sintomas na ito, you have to consult your doctor.
Okay. We have another question from Asher. If you feel any symptoms of water-related illness, what medication should you take?
Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, so as much as possible, we avoid self-medication. So kung nakaramdam ka ng kahit na anumang sintomas, ang pinaka-best way is to consult your doctor para ma-properly diagnose kung ano man yung nararamdaman mo and eventually magamot mo ito.
That is definitely good advice, Dr. Rojas. Do not self-medicate. We have another question from Edwin. Tanong niya ay, pwede rin bang mabuhay ang virus tulad ng COVID-19 sa inuming tubig?
Sige po. So napakinggan ko kanina yung unang part, si Dr. Jaifred talk on the foodborne diseases. So ang COVID-19, gaya po ng sinabi ng aking kasamahan, at according to WHO, ang two main modes of transmission pa rin ng virus causing COVID-19 is via respiratory. So human-to-human transmission via respiratory droplet or via contact sa contaminated surfaces. So never po, wala pa pong report na ito ay makukuha sa pag-inom ng tubig. So to directly answer yung question, it's not related po. It cannot be considered as a water-related disease. So it's mainly respiratory.
In general, Dr. Rojas, dito sa mga waterborne illnesses, katulad ng sinabi nyo, ang diarrhea is a common symptom about this. Ano? What is a general rule that our viewers should take on? Kumbaga, ano ang mararamdaman nila na pwede nilang sabihin na kailangan na nilang magpatingin sa doktor or kailangan nang pumunta sa ospital, or any signs na pwede muna nilang i-treat at home?
So definitely po, kung may lagnat, nilalagnat ang isang tao, masakit ang tiyan, may diarrhea, so meaning more frequent loose watery stool, you really have to consult your doctor or go to the nearest clinic or hospital. So other than that, pwede naman i-monitor lang, pero kung meron ka na ng mga sintomas na ito, it warrants consultation already.
Okay, so definitely signs of dehydration, meron tayo dyan. Kung meron kayong lagnat, katulad sa ni Doktora, yun ay mas maganda, mas mainam na magpatingin na po tayo sa doktor. So very good advice, Dr. Rojas. Thank you very much for joining us today and sharing all of those tips with our viewers. Before we go though, do you have a message for our viewers with regards to itong tag-ulan na natin at kung anong dapat nilang pag-ingatan.
So thank you again, Dr. Freddie. So we'd like to thank CNN because you're featuring disease. Alam natin na ngayon sa panahon ng pandemya, we are all focused to fighting against COVID. But there are also diseases aside from COVID-19 na which is relevant also particularly during this rainy season. So hindi natin dapat kakalimutan yung ibang sakit bukod sa COVID-19. Gaya nga ng sinabi natin, yung typhoid fever, leptospirosis, particularly ngayong tag-ulan. So there are a lot of cases of leptospirosis already, and then hepatitis A and cholera. So if we know kung paano ma-prevent, so kanina nasabi natin, safe water, hand hygiene, napakahalaga, and then preparation of safe food also are very important to prevent all of these water and foodborne diseases. So nais namin po magpasalamat sa inyo, Dr. Freddie, para mai-abot ito sa publiko. So we're from the College of Public Health. So we want to inform everyone that we have to still take care of ourselves and to prevent diseases other than COVID.
Okay, that was Dr. Evalyn Roxas from the Philippine General Hospital. So we hope we were able to help answer your questions on today's episode of The Doctor Is In. Please do join us again on Monday, 3:30 p.m. for another appointment with me here on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez. Take care, everyone, and stay safe.